Thank you all for joining in today. And today is our episode number 42. And this is free Intune training provided by How to Manage Devices community. And if you have any questions related to device management, please feel free to use our forum, that is forum.howtomanagedevices.com. Right. So let's see the registry entries of Office updates, OneDrive and of Outlook updates, which we deployed yesterday, right? To prevent the personal OneDrive sync and all. So I promised you yesterday I will show you like the registry entries which I couldn't find yesterday. So I was searching through the event logs, and these are the event logs which I found related to our policy which we deployed yesterday, right? So I don't know how many of you remember the policies which we deployed. There are, I think, three policies. One was related to OneDrive sync, the other were related to email, right? So this is one of those policies. And if I go to event logs, so this is the event log. If I go to registry, regedit, and if I go to this path, right, the policy manager over here, right, Microsoft policy manager providers, and this is my enrollment ID, right, of the user, right. I think this is the one, right, S12, and then you can see something called Outlook, right. So over here, see, you can see OneDrive policy, Outlook policy, and the other one is also Outlook related policy. So let's look into the OneDrive policy, and you can see disable personal sync. This automatically created through the administrative templates, right? So when we deployed administrative template settings through Intune, it disabled the personal OneDrive sync, right, on this device. Okay, so that is done. Now let's check the office sorry, Outlook configurations. On the Outlook, what we have configured is basically to disable some of the options to add the emails, etc., etc., right? So let me try to copy this. Okay, I don't know whether I have already copied it or not. Yeah, I think this is the, yeah, this is a copy of it already I have. Okay, so these are the configuration which we kind of did in the policy. So if I split this word into separate words with appropriate meaning, right? Adding exchange, prevent users from adding exchange email accounts, right? Have you seen this yesterday? Yeah, this was one of the setting which we configured, and it was configured to false initially, right? Because I didn't select that, and then I changed it to true, right, later. So that is why it is true. All of them are true. So let's go back. Now you have seen all these policies. Now let's check the other one also, right? So this is the prevent no default exchange account. So this is also enabled, right? So that means that feature is disabled, right? Okay, so let's quickly go back to the policies over here, configuration profiles, and let's recollect our policy configuration over here, right? Where is it? To prevent, yeah, this is the one. Okay, it it got an error somewhere on the device, some device, right? That is 0101. We didn't install probably. That is why. Let's check what is the error, right? Personal OneDrive error. Administrative template. failed to configure 002. Okay, so this mission, right? There's no log user logged into it. Probably that is why, as I mentioned yesterday, this mission, right? Host name, if I try to say host name, this is 01. Okay, and 01 is the mission we are talking about here. This is the 01 mission, right? And I logged in with my local username and password. Probably that is why the user policies are not getting applied on this device. Okay, so that is one more tip for you, right? So let's go back to properties and check what are these configurations. So these are the three configurations which we did yesterday, right? So I don't know whether I have a copy of those configurations or not. Okay, yeah, I think I have a copy of those. Let's do that. Let's search in all settings and see. This is the prevent users from OneDrive. This is enabled, right? So this is what we saw as the last registry entry, right? And then let's check this one. Prevent block signing into Office. If I can copy it, right? So over here, no, this was not the one. Forgot which was the one. Okay, anyways, let's go back and check which is the other one. Default. Okay, prevent adding email accounts. So this is the other one, right? Probably this will kind of restrict all the email accounts. Probably only the default one will be allowed, right, over here if you configure this policy. So you should be very careful about that, right? So prevent users from email account. So yesterday, if you remember, we have enabled only 3, right? And these 2 were not enabled. Then I enabled these 2 also. So total 5, and it's all enabled. That is why on the device here, you could see a configuration like true for all the configurations over here. Okay, so hope that is clear, right? So let's go back, and now let's go ahead and look into some other interesting configurations in Intune, right? So I think I have touched based on this in the initial, I think, episode 02 or something, right? 02 or 03. Okay, so we are still in the devices node over here, right? It's devices, Windows. I didn't filter it with Windows. If I filter it with Windows, I don't see those configurations which I wanted to configure now, right? So I'm going back to devices, and there is something called device enrollment, right? Enroll devices and enrollment restrictions, right? So we are going to see these things today, right? Let's click on enroll devices, right? If you click on enroll devices, this is basically the part in Intune where you can configure the enrollment experience, right? As you can see, there are some things like enrollment status page, etc., right? We will cover enrollment status page in the later part of this training, right? So this is pretty much useful in a real world scenario if you use autopilot and all, right? Okay, so today what I'm going to show you is enrollment restriction policies and enrollment restriction policies configurations, right? So what do you mean by what do you, what is enrollment restriction policy, right? So for example, if you have a security requirement in your organization that only the CYO devices, company owned devices, should get enrolled should get enrolled to Intune management. Okay, so if that is a policy, then we need to block all the enrollment of BYO devices, right? For example, like BYO of iOS and Mac OS and all the other devices are fine, but BYO of Windows devices are not allowed in your organization, right? So that kind of configuration can be done over here, right? So we can say like, oh, okay, I don't want particular Windows 10 devices, um, BYO devices to join my MDM, right? And uh, basically, you don't want BYO devices access corporate resources after enrolling into Intune, right? So that is why we want to kind of restrict BYO devices, Windows BYO devices. So when I say BYO devices, it is bring your own device or personal device. Basically, this is Azure AD registered device. Okay, so you normally log in with your email ID, personal email ID, into the device, or local user account into the device, right? Home devices kind of stuff, right? Not your enterprise organization device where you log in with your domain ID or Azure AD username and password. Okay, so that is what personal devices. Okay, so there are, as you can see over here, there are two types of restrictions over here. One is device type restrictions. The other one is device limit restrictions. Okay, so you can have device type restrictions also and device limit restrictions. So let's see device limit restrictions first, right? So device limit restriction is basically pretty simple, right? So if I click on the default, so these are the default device type limit restriction, type and limit restrictions, right? So if my recommendation would be, probably it's better you create a new device limit restrictions, right? Don't change anything in the default device restrictions or a device type and device limit restriction policies, right? So let's check what is the default configuration of this, right? Click on this. I hope this will get open up. Okay, if I click on all users, and it is going to this, it is going to open this one, and click on properties. On the properties, you would be able to see this is device limitation, number of devices one particular user can have, right? So now the option is set to 5. Only 5 devices a particular user can have, right? So I can increase that to 15 maximum, right? As per Intune licensing and Intune APIs, we can have 15 devices assigned to a single user. If the user is going to enroll 16th device, 16, right? If you configure 15 as a number over here, and if user tries to enroll 16th device, then it will give you an error, right? It won't allow you to enroll, right? So that is this configuration. Enrollment type, limit restrictions, right? Limit is number of devices. So I'm going to save, but I don't want to save this. As I mentioned, probably I will cancel it. I will keep the default as default, right? And let's go back and create a device limit custom policy for us, right? Device I will say HDMD, device limit custom, if I can spell it correctly. Okay, policy, number of devices, right? Number of devices. Okay, so let's say next, and over here you can see the default value is 15, right? So I'm going to select the default value as 15, and if you want to select change it is like only one device is allowed per user, then you can change it to one also. But you need to remember that in that case, the only one device should be allowed from that user profile. Okay, so that means if the user is using a Windows 10 device, then yeah, that is only one device it will be allowed to enroll. But if the user is trying to kind of enroll his mobile device to access company resources, then it won't allow, because the device number is only one, right? And also you should be careful. Probably if the user is having some stale records in Intune, probably it might create issues. So you need to remove those tail records if you are keeping the numbers low. Otherwise, your support scenarios will increase, or support cases will increase, right? Okay. So I'm going to select 15 over here, right, and click next. Click next. And scope tags, I'm not going to do that. And here we don't have any, there's a different template over here, right? We don't have any exclude options. In policies and in applications, we have seen exclude options over here in the assignment in Intune, right? But over here, we don't have any exclude options. It's all include only, right? So we ideally we cannot exclude anything from here, right? So over here, we are going to select user groups because that is what required, right? Because it's not a device based policy, it's limitation based on the user. So it doesn't make any sense to deploy these policy to devices. Okay, so I'm going to select all all users, all Intune users. Let me check what does that group is up to, right? So let's go back into Azure Active Directory groups, right? And let's check what is that users, right? All Intune users. Members, if I go to members, you can see like, okay, these are the 3 users available in my group. That's fine then. So let's check HTMD. Okay, so even though Windows devices, right, appears here, don't deploy to the device group. Okay, I would just wanted to show you the device group will appear here. You don't get confused about it, right? So click on select, because this is already selected all Intune users, right? Now click next, and you can review it. What are the things over here, right? And it says device limit is 15. Let's create one. Now we have created one, right? And you got a notification that it got created successfully, right? See. Okay, now you can see something called priority, right? Over here, priority is something very important, right? So if for example, this is deployed to all users, and this is a subset of all users, right? For example, I have 1,000 users in my organization, and this particular policy of 15 users, no, sorry, 15 device limit as 15 is deployed to 5 users. Then we need to set the priority correctly. Otherwise, the default policy will take over. So if I can try to move this, probably I won't be able to move this, right? So let's do one more thing over here, right? Let's create one more policy, right? And say device limit. Did I did I uh, limit policy? Okay, that was interesting. Okay, okay, let's policy 2. Okay, let's create a policy 2, and let's say 10 users, 5 devices. No, not 5. Let's say 10 devices. So I just wanted to show you something. That is why I'm creating another policy. So I'm going to say only all India users. So earlier I selected a different group. Now I'm going to select a different group, that is all India users, right? previously I selected all Intune users. So this group has only one member, right? So I'm going to select that this group, all India users, and click create. Now you can see the priority 1 and 2. Priority 1 and 2, right? One is 10 and one is 2. So for example, in Jitesh is part of this India users group, right? And Jitesh is part of this group also, right? All Intune users group. So I want Jitesh to get only 10 devices limit. Okay. So in this scenario, with this setting, the priority is always given to the 15 users. So Jitesh will automatically get 15 devices policy, limit policy. So I want to change that. So how to do that, right? So let's do it, right? So this is what we need to do. I just dragged this policy from here to top. That's a magic, right? So now the 10 policy, 10 devices limit policy is priority 1, okay? And 15 devices is priority 2. Now now Jitesh can only enroll 10 devices, right? So this is the magic of priorities over here. So you just need to hover over here, right? Hover over here, right? Then this type of symbol will appear, and once that symbol is appearing, then probably what you can do is you can drag down. If you drag down, this is already down. Now 10 users is priority 2. So yeah, so you can do like this, right? Drag and drop. So now 10 users is priority 1. So as you can see over here, that is kind of initiating a policy change also, right? Successfully saved. This is few seconds before, right? Okay, so that is device limit restrictions. This is pretty straightforward. Apart from this priority thing, you need to be very careful, right? If you have a scenario like that, okay, in your organization. Okay, so the next thing is device type restriction. Device type restriction is, as I mentioned, BYO devices, personal devices. If you want to block personal devices, if you want to block something like iOS devices, enrolling entire iOS devices, your Intune is not at all managing iOS devices or Android devices, and your company policy is Android is not good for corporate devices. Android devices should not um, access corporate email or something. Then you can restrict all the Android devices, right, from enrolling into your Intune and corporate network, right? So this is that policy. That is why it's called device type restrictions. So this is a default device type restrictions applied with lowest priority to all users regardless of group membership, right? So priority is important over here also. We will cover that. Okay, so we are kind of reaching end of today's session. Is there any questions? I want to take questions and allow you to speak up in the last 5 minutes. Tomorrow probably we will cover this device type restrictions. Who wants to go first? Everything is clear, I hope. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's fine. Then let's see a quick look of let's have a quick look into the device type restrictions, right?
Anup, just one question on that page.
Yeah.
Like when we apply to all devices and there are multiple policies or multiple restrictions. Um,
Which
yeah,
which one? This one, right?
yeah, any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have multiple policies, like one applied to Android, other apply to iOS or Windows. Do do you think, or just a question, if there is any conflicting policy with each of them, because you are applying to all devices or all users, so we shouldn't, or there is no risk to apply to all devices?
So you are talking about device type restrictions or limit
Yes,
one?
yeah, device type restrictions. If you can open, yeah, any of,
Okay.
yeah. So this is applied to all
Yeah, all device,
devices,
all users actually.
all users. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, for a Windows device, if there is a policy which is applied for mobile, or for that matter for any other uh, Android. So I don't think
So
it should interfere with it, right? That's my question.
So basically, it is the logic, the main conflict logic, right? Conflict or resolving conflict logic here is priority, right? So this is the primary key over here. If you talk about like a pure conflict perspective, right? This is always primary key, and if your user is part of priority one deployment or assignment, right? Then that configuration will take effect, right? And all the other priorities will get ignored. Does that make sense? For example, if you for example, tomorrow we will see like I will create two other policies over here under device type restrictions, right? Then only the the topmost priority one, right, like something like one, will get effect if the user is part of like many groups or many deployments. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think we can finish this off for today because we only have 3 minutes left. Okay. So thank you all for joining in today. Hope you learned something and see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Good day.
Get
Bye
up.
bye.
Good day.